What's up, everybody? Logan Arliss here, Illinois Aviation Academy, for our next webinar Wednesday event. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us. Hopefully you're all having a very fine Wednesday. And we're going to jump right into this one. We got a lot to cover. We'll be talking a little bit about the statistics in the industry as we start climbing out of this COVID pandemic, as well as we're going to get to talk airplanes and what pilot doesn't like to talk about airplanes. And what better person to talk to than the regional sales director of Textron, Mr. Luken Smith. Now, Luken is the piston sales director for Textron. He covers Illinois, Wisconsin, Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota. And we're lucky enough to have him based right here out of the flight center at DuPage Airport. He's also a pilot, so he's a commercially rated pilot. He has his instrument rating, and he graduated from Purdue University, not in aviation, but you could imagine a degree in sales and sales management. So let me bring Luken onto the call here. May have got cut off there for just a little bit. Sorry about that, guys. There we go. Hey, Luken. Hey, Luken.
Hey, Logan, how's it going?
Hey, man, how are you doing? How's life over at the flight center?
Doing well. Another beautiful day here in Chicagoland, and seems like there's some good activity out on the runway today. Just saw one of your students out soloing. That's pretty exciting.
Very exciting. Yeah, we took advantage of the good weather today. A little rainy this morning, but it cleared up, and we were able to get some birds up and fill the skies over DuPage again. So I was telling our viewers, so you are the piston sales director at Textron, covering Illinois, Wisconsin, Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, and we're lucky enough to have you based right here out of the flight center at DuPage. So tell our viewers a little bit about Textron, about the company, the brands that fall underneath the Textron name, and a little bit about their history.
Yeah, definitely. So you look at Textron Aviation is owned by Textron Inc. It's our corporate company. We're a publicly traded company, and we have a really large portfolio. And some other of our brands that you may recognize, Bell Helicopter is a big one. They don't fall under the aviation side of our business. That's just Cessna, Beechcraft, and Hawker. But they're also one of our sister companies. Easy Go Golf Cars, Jacobson Mowers, Arctic Cat's one of our newer companies up out in Minnesota. And so, you know, we're kind of this big group. We have a little bit of military presence with Textron Systems, and we'll get into it later, but Bell obviously has a large military segment. We have a pretty big segment as well at Textron Aviation. To get back to the aviation side, you know, Beechcraft was purchased by Textron in 2014. So we are one happy family now, even though we are kind of crosstown rivals, if you will, in Wichita. The Cessna factory is on the west side of town, and Beechcraft is on the east side, and that's been fun for us as we've been growing together. So just some of the powerful things about what Textron is. We have 19 airplanes currently in production. Look at our product line. It starts at the Cessna 172 Skyhawk that most of us are familiar with. And we go all the way up to a Citation Longitude, which is, a 3,500 nautical mile airplane with seats for 10 to 12 people. And so we have a product in the middle that's probably going to fit your mission. And that's one of the great things about Textron Aviation, is the ability to start in a Skyhawk and walk your way all the way to the top, as your mission changes, as your needs change, and as your pilot skills change as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's awesome. Textron, definitely a big powerhouse in the aviation industry, with a lot of history, as you were saying. So we're going to get into a lot of the line of Textron aircraft further on in our interview, but I'd like to talk a little bit about the industry as it stands currently, as we start climbing out of the crisis that we just faced with the COVID pandemic. After talking with Tim Gentz of Wisconsin Air last week, he was talking about how June is going to be such a critical month to see how things change as states start opening back up again. Now, we got some pretty interesting research on the sentiment and willingness of people to travel. So what they did is they screened people's activity online, what they're talking about on social media and online accounts, to see their willingness to travel and their sentiment to travel. And what they're seeing is, if we look at the graph here, that leisurely people are talking about traveling again, domestic flying, air travel to visit friends and family. So it's looking good that they're considering travel again. It's pretty well matching the TSA screenings, how many people are traveling as we move out of May. So we can see that graph line starting to come up again. They did the same thing with business keywords. So people talking about online activity associated with planning travel for work. Not so much as bright as the leisure travel segment, but it is still above the TSA screenings, which is good. And there could be many factors causing this, such as, businesses are getting used to utilizing online programs like we're doing right now, having Zoom meetings instead of putting people on the aircraft to go have a face-to-face interaction. Also, I think a little bit that's slowing down the business side is the liability still. So, we're freshly out of this COVID situation. Companies are just now starting to open up, but COVID's still out there. And so there could be some liability concerns on companies from putting large numbers of people on aircraft to travel. So it'll be interesting to see through June how these numbers, how the TSA screenings kind of continue this upward motion. Another interesting graph they did was that they just isolated vacation. And it's interesting to see that in 2020 now, there's more people talking about taking a vacation versus in 2019. And some of this could be because we have been cooped up for quite a while in our homes with stay-at-home orders and other mandates such as that. So we're going to be watching this through June to see how these curves progress, how many people start flying again, and seeing how many people are talking about vacation are going to take to the air to take those vacations. On the other side, the private jet industry doing much better than commercial, the airlines. So they're at 58% the volume from where they were at last year versus the 12% that the airlines are currently at. The president of NetJet said May is on track to be the best month of new customer relations that they've seen in the past 10 years. Anthony Tivian, which is the president of Magellan Jet, said 89%. They had an 89% increase in new customers from mid-March to this past week. The founder of VistaJet, which is an international charter company, so they fly coast to coast. They said refueling landings in Anchorage, which is a major stop for transcontinental flights to Asia, were up 250% since the outbreak. And then also Sentiment Jet sold 30 million revenue of flying time in April, which is well above their 25 monthly average. So really interesting to see that the private jet market is doing so well when the airlines are still pretty far behind. But this has got to be a good sign for Textron in the market selling these private jets. And are you seeing these same type of numbers?
Yeah, definitely. So I think the thing that we're seeing the most is kind of a bottom to top cycle. So we're seeing from our partners, NetJets and Wheels Up are big customers of ours, flying, everything from a King Air to the Latitude, and then now the Longitude. And those customers are seeing much higher numbers of new inquiries, people that are like, you know what, I don't really want to fly on the airlines right now. I want to take a look at what it might look like to take my family to Florida, or move my business around. I don't need to do, I don't want to fly commercial. And so those guys are seeing an uptick. In our segment as well, on the piston side, we're also seeing an uptick in new inquiries, new students. All of my flight schools across my territory are doing really well. Everybody seems to be bursting at the seam, which is fantastic. And I think you're going to start seeing the same trickle up into our Citations, and the King Airs, especially, as they're great charter platforms. This is a chart that we are tracking about every 14 days or so. It gets updated. You can see it lags a little bit. It's only up through May 13th. What it's tracking is the number of flights per day in general aviation. This isn't including charter operations, not including cargo operations, strictly 91 operations in the turbine, turboprop, and piston markets. And what we've seen is, we started right at the start of COVID. You see the big drop off at the beginning of March, and we went from about 5,800 flights down to kind of an all-time low. We were around 1,400 flights in early April, and we're starting to climb out of that. We're really, the numbers are looking really strong, and now you're looking at numbers above 4,000 again. Yeah, we're not quite to where we were before COVID, but it's exciting to see a positive trend, and that we're beating that 7-day rolling average, which is really exciting.
Absolutely, yeah. We're seeing the same thing at the academy. We're probably about 90% of where we were last year, and I know a lot of the piston sales is driven, by general aviation. Usually, when there's a lot of flight training activity, a lot of general aviation activity, piston sales usually do pretty well. Looking at last year, they had a really big year, which was, I think, driven by the crazy pilot shortage that everyone was out, flight training, and a big boost in flight training last year. So if someone is in the market and they're, they are thinking about buying a piston aircraft from you, what type of things should they be considering in terms of picking an airplane?
Sure. Yeah. The number one question that I'm going to ask a customer is what's your mission? What are you trying to accomplish with this airplane? Because I think that really sets you in the right direction of what product to look at. We make a lot of great products that range in mission. You start off maybe in a 172 or a 182 as, still a training airplane, but then you have maybe a mission of wanting to go to Florida from Chicago. Now, all of a sudden you need something with a little bit more range. And so one of the big things that we always start with is what's the mission? How far you want to go? How many passengers you got? And where are you going? The second thing that I always talk about is, what's going to be, the business to personal use, because that's also going to determine, what you're going to, airplane you're going to purchase. There's a lot of great incentives out there for businesses to take advantage of aviation. The CARES Act that just came out gives an option to people that are using airplanes for business purposes. And you'll see some people that write off airplanes for their business. And so that's a great avenue to travel as well. And then also ultimately the budget, right? So what can we afford to buy? We'll talk about financing later on, but that's a great option as well. You don't necessarily have to pay cash for your airplane. There's more and more people that are starting to finance, especially right now during this COVID time. The lenders have really good rates that we haven't seen in a while. And so that's another thing to consider as we start looking at what's my next airplane or what's my first airplane look like.
Absolutely. And I know a big question is, should I go new or should I buy a used airplane? And, with the whole COVID situation coming in and putting a hurt on some of the economy, are you starting to see, the used aircraft market, the prices start to fall? And is that creating some competition with selling new aircraft? And then what are the benefits for buying a new aircraft or buying a used aircraft?
Sure. I would say, one of probably my biggest competitor is the pre-owned market. I compete against pre-owned 182s, 206s, Bonanzas, and Barons more than I compete against anything else. And the used market is really strong across the board for our products. Our airplanes are holding their values really well. And so you see a real strong market from the pre-owned side. A lot of people speculated in early March, April, that the pre-owned market was going to take a big hit and we were going to start to see a decline in pricing. And I haven't seen that. We have not seen that hardly at all. In fact, I think a lot of people have been shopping more now that they have a little bit more time on their hands. We've had some inquiries of guys, just kind of kicking tires and wanting to see, what something might go for. And so I think the pre-owned market remains strong, which is good signs. And so I think that's a really a positive thing. Now, new versus used, it comes down to the same thing, Logan. What are you going to do when you go buy a new car? Personally for me, I'm a big Jeep guy. Do I want to buy a new Jeep or do I want to buy a used Jeep? And there's benefits to buying new and there's benefits to buying used. And the same thing goes in airplanes. One thing that I would say bottom line is always call your Cessna guy. Whether you're buying something that's, 2005, 2008, call me. Like, I love talking about airplanes. I don't care, what vintage it is. I talk to a guy here at DuPage about his 180 all the time. So let's talk about airplanes. I'm happy to do that and share my knowledge with you and some of my contacts in the industry. But the bottom line is in new airplanes, there's a lot of value when it comes to warranty, right? So airplanes are expensive. There's no joke about that, whether that comes down to the engine or the avionics. Warranty is a big thing that you get coming from the factory. The other thing is a peace of mind, right? So you come out to the factory. We're going to do factory training with you. Most of the insurance guys love that. They want to see 10 hours, dual, or they want to see, oh, you got that stamp of factory training. And that's something that we offer when you come out to the factory to pick up your new airplane. Not to mention the delivery experience. I mean, you pick up a new car at the dealership. It's not really that cool. I mean, it's just kind of a transaction. But taking delivery of an airplane, you come out to the headquarters, you come out to the factory. It is a true dog and pony show. There's, the red carpets. We put, my favorite time of the year is Christmas. We put big red bows on our airplanes, packages out front, a lot of gifts and things like that. So, buying new is fun. It's exciting. You get to pick your paint job. It's a total custom experience for you. Paint, interior, avionics. What do you want to have on the airplane? Oh, and let's put a fun tail number on it. Let's put your wife's birthday on it and then throw her initials on it. I see that a lot. Or let's have some fun with it. That's the joy. That's the fun stuff about buying new. And we get to do that on the new side.
That's awesome. Yeah, the best way to sell the wife on a new airplane is to put her birthday on the tail number.
Exactly. I've had several customers mention that to me.
So you're the big piston guy. So your lineup here, you got the 172, the 182, the 206 turbo, the Bonanza, and the Baron. So talk to us a little bit about these airplanes and what are they built for? So what missions are these aircraft meant for?
Yeah, definitely. So pistons is my DNA, right? So I learned to fly in the 172. I got my bug for aviation in the piston side. My dad had a Skyhawk when I was a kid. We flew around the country together, going to Oshkosh as a kid. That's really where I got the bug. So these airplanes have a special place in my heart. And in my entire career with Textron, I've been pursuing the opportunity to sell these airplanes. So I'm very passionate about the piston products. Let's start off with the Skyhawk. We'll walk through each product individually, and then talk a little bit about where its strengths are, and what market it's really going for. Skyhawk. We all know the Skyhawk, right? The Skyhawk is the #1 flight trainer in the world. Has been. It's been built since the mid 50s. You know, we've built over 45,000 of these airplanes, and it's just a great trainer. We sell a lot of these to flight schools, ATP, Embry-Riddle. Those are our big customers for the 172. And then we sell them to our Cessna pilot centers as well, in other flight schools across the world. It's an airplane that fits the training build perfectly. It's a very stable airplane, and it's really just a great all-around training platform. We offer it in a couple different seating configurations set up for training. You can get 2 seats in the back. You can get 1 seat in the back. That 1 seat in the back has kind of become a new thing for us. A lot of flight schools want kind of an observer seat, so you can see between the instructor and the student. You can put someone in the back, kind of give them that experience, let them, get in the habit of listening to radios and seeing what the flight process looks like. And so that's another new thing that we're kind of doing on the Skyhawks, and some of our university trainers. So let's take another step and go look at the 182. 182 is I would say it's a continuation of the Skyhawk, right? So the guy that's learning to fly right now in the Skyhawk, maybe just got his private. He's like, you know what? I need an airplane. I want to put my family in. I want to go somewhere, maybe a trip down to Nashville, down to St. Louis. Let's go fly here around the Midwest. 182 is a fantastic airplane. You can put 4 people in it and go somewhere, which is awesome. But at the same time, it's also a great airplane to continue your training in. So you want to get your instrument rating. Airplane's got G1000, NXI in it. Fantastic platform to do your instrument. You don't have to look at those steam gauges anymore. It's a beautiful airplane to fly, and you're not going to feel overwhelmed by the airplane coming out of a Skyhawk. This airplane has been very successful for us while we've been building them for a number of years. It's a very stable airplane. It's got great slow flight characteristics, just like you do in the Skyhawk. It's great on grass. It's a really solid airplane for that new student, wants something of his own, wants to continue his training, but also wants a family machine. So then from there, we're going to go take a look at the 206. So now we're building the Turbo 206. It's got a turbocharged TIO 540 Lycoming engine. Should mention the Skyhawk and the 182 also have Lycomings. And the Turbo 206, it's a hoss, man. It is like the F-150 of the skies. It is a hauler. Whatever you want to put in the airplane, you almost can. It's got big cargo doors in the back that open up. You can put a full-size 55-gallon drum in the back. It does have seats for 6, so you can put 6 occupants in the airplane. Most of my customers, what they'll do is fold that back seat down, make more room for bags or something like that. Some guys will even take it out. It's pretty easy to do. Just pull a couple pins, and it's a great hauler. This is your Suburban. I mean, you can put, I've seen dirt bikes in the back of these things. There's a customer that I talked to that put his miniature pony in the back of the airplane. I mean, this thing will haul anything. It's got flat floors, as you can see, and so it's great for packing in the suitcases with the family. This airplane handles a lot like the 182 and the Skyhawk. In fact, this was probably the first high-performance airplane that I had ever flown. After doing my private and instrument in the Skyhawk. And I really felt right at home because it still has the same characteristics as the 172. That high wing, that float that we're all used to, this airplane will still do that. But it's got 310 horsepower on the front as well. The 206 also has an oxygen system, so you can take it up to like 18,000 feet, get the best performance out of the airplane. Very doable. It's a great mountain airplane. So any of the guys that are going out west, it's a great airplane for that. And the 206 is a phenomenal off grass. We also offer a oversized gear and tire package for the 206. We offer a cargo pod for the 206. Really just a total utilitarian airplane. Some people will say it's kind of like a baby Caravan. Very easy to fly, a lot of fun, and really a solid airplane. Might be one of my favorites of the group.
That's awesome. Yeah, that the 172 is the ultimate pilot trainer. It's the backbone of aviation. It's where everyone starts, where everyone thinks of, when you think of flight training. And then you got the 182, step up from that. A lot better range on the 182. You can go farther, a little faster. And then, like you said, the 206, you got 2 extra seats in the back. So that's the hauler. And, like you said, you take that seat out and, hey, now you can throw some clubs back there and take the buddies and go golfing.
Right, exactly. And one thing that I should point out is the 206 and the 182 actually share the same wing. So that's one of the reasons why you get such great range out of the Skylane, because you got a smaller engine, you're not burning as much fuel, and so you can take a lot more fuel and go places. Both airplanes are phenomenal. Like I said, they're just great airplanes for especially guys coming out of Skyhawks. They know that airplane so well because they did their training in it. Really both real strong airplanes.
Absolutely. So let's talk about the Beechcraft lines. You got the Bonanza and the Baron there.
Yeah. So the Beechcraft airplane. So this comes to all the craft. There's it's not a coincidence that it's all royalty, right? So we have the King Air. There used to be a Queen Air. There was a Duchess. There's a Duke, the Bonanza and the Baron now. And you really step up into I would like to call it kind of like a luxury sports car when you get to the Bonanza and the Baron. Performance-wise, they're a ton of fun to fly. When you see that gap in the clouds and you want to get there, you just put the nose there and it goes. 175 knots in the Bonanza, 200 knots in the Baron. Like I mentioned, a lot of fun to fly. Now, the other thing is both airplanes have big cargo doors in the back, similar to what is on the 206. So it makes it very easy for loading and unloading passengers. Your old grandma doesn't have to climb up on the wing to get into the airplane. You can just load her right into the back with a granny step or something like that. It's very, easy to get into the airplane. One thing that I like to mention about the Bonanza, it's the longest production airplane in history. We've been building them since 1947, continuously. It's never stopped. Whereas you look at like a 172, which does have a strong legacy being back to the 1950s, we stopped production of the Cessna high wings in the late 80s. They did bring them back, obviously, here in the late 90s, but there was a stop in production. Whereas the Bonanza, it kept going through. And so that really puts a special class around the Bonanza. And the Bonanza owners, we have the American Bonanza Society. We kind of have this group of guys that fly Bonanzas, and they're just Bonanza guys. You think about Jeep guys, you think about Corvette guys. The Bonanza guys are a very special group, and once you're a Bonanza guy, you'll always be a Bonanza guy. We see it all the time where they go Bonanza to a Baron to a King Air, and then when they sell their company, it's right back to the Bonanza because that's where they started. And it's a really cool group. So the Bonanza, it's got a kind of a club style seating, 2 facing backwards and 2 facing forward. Again, most of my customers will take out the back 2 seats, gives you a little bit more leg room, more room for bags. but the Bonanza has a very comfortable cabin. Tray table standard in the back. It's a nice place to set up your computer and work. I'll do that often when we're traveling. Allows me to bust out a couple emails or get some things prepared for my next meeting. The airplane is also standard with leather and air conditioning. Fantastic heating and cooling system on the Bonanza and the Baron. You can see that right there. Number 8 is the AC system. That's all just a set it and forget it system. You don't have to constantly mess with it. It's just like it is in your car. It's really a great system. You can see up there 1 and 2. That's the G1000 NXI. That's standard across the board in all 5 of our piston products. We're on phase 2 of the NXI, which came out in 2019. And I'd be happy to show you guys some more in-depth details of that. The NXI in phase 2, one of the big safety features that we put into the airplane is electronic stability protection. And so if you get into an unusual attitude, the airplane will actually go wings level, which is a really nice safety feature to have in all of our airplanes.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like the old straight and level button in the Cirrus that they got in there. Just push the button, wings go level, hold altitude. It's pretty nice to have. How about these? So this is the inside of the Baron then. So the Baron, you got a couple more seats in the back.
Well, so the Baron and the Bonanza have the exact same cabin. It's the seating configuration exactly the same. It just gives you the option to change it over. Option number 1 is what we do standard from the factory. That's the way most people do it. I've seen a couple people with option 3, but it's very limited. And option 4 is available if you do want to kind of go more of a cargo-ish style. But the point here that this graphic is making is that you can take the seats out. It's not you don't have to have your mechanic do it. It's a very seamless process, something that you can do in the hangar depending on what the mission of the day is.
Very nice. Yeah, very, very good option to have there. A couple questions for you. So I know that a lot of the high profile aviation events have been canceled. Oshkosh got canceled. Not sure what the summer months have in store, but how is this affecting you in your general aviation sales? And then, how are you going to combat this, losing the ability to go out and market some of these new aircraft? Sure.
Well, I can tell you firsthand, I'm absolutely heartbroken. I mean, to have Sun and Fun canceled and then to have Oshkosh canceled, those are the 2 shows that essentially fueled my passion for aviation and eventually led me to working for Cessna. So personally, I'm extremely upset. I've been going to those shows for years, and it's always a fun part of our summer, right? From a company standpoint, yeah, it's heartbreaking. We, as a company, love to be at those shows, love to be out meeting pilots, meeting owners. It's really a special time to connect with industry folks, connect with people across the business. And it's going to be really different this year. So what we're trying to do this year instead, since we're not going to have the shows, kind of do some more regional stuff. So there will probably be some regional shows this fall, as it seems that most of the states are coming out of the phase. We're in phase 3 now here in Illinois, which is groups of 10 people. I suspect that once that gets to the next level, we will do more things here in Illinois. But one of the things that I'm doing personally is I'm really tapping into my flight schools. So what can I do with Illinois Aviation Academy, my other Cessna pilot centers here in the Chicagoland, up in Wisconsin, Minnesota, and the Dakotas, and kind of do one-off events. Let me bring a new airplane in. Tell your flight instructor, hey, I'm thinking about looking at buying a new airplane or a used airplane. Those guys will reach out to me. I'm talking to my Cessna pilot centers on a weekly basis. We'd be happy to set up an event like that. We do open houses. We're working on some cookouts, some different flying activities, kind of like a traveling trade show, if you will. Working with our partners up in Minnesota, Whip Air. They build our floats for the 206 and then the Caravan, one of our turbine products. and we're working on a kind of a traveling flying show with them. We might work with Aviat Husky because they also use whip line floats as well. So we're kind of trying to think outside the box, do some new fun shows, and really just get the airplanes out so that people can see them. When you go out to the ramp, you see older Skyhawks, but you don't really think of the new shiny Cessnas. And so how can we get those out there? So I'll be doing demos here in the month of June, really picking up July, August, and September. Feel free to give me a call or send me an email. Also get in touch with your local CBC, and we can definitely set up a showing or maybe even a demo flight for you as well.
Absolutely. We love that. Love to have you over here. I know our students would enjoy that greatly. What financing options, you were talking about this earlier, does Textron offer to customers looking to purchase a new aircraft?
Yeah, so from a financing standpoint, we're seeing more and more customers starting to finance. It's letting your money work for you. And so Textron Financial is a wing of ours. You might have seen them on that first slide there. They offer financing. Typically in the piston segment, it's not quite as competitive as what we would see with some of our other lenders. So we typically steer our customers to Airfleet Capital. I would say about 80 to 85% of the people that are financing are using Airfleet Capital. They got some great rates out right now, especially with COVID-19, like I mentioned earlier. But I would also encourage you to check out your local banks. If you have some assets tied up with a local lender, sometimes those can actually be pretty competitive as well. I have some schools that do that, and some other customers that have, ag equipment or something like that, that will use their local bank instead of a finance company. But like I said earlier, feel free to give me a call. I'm happy to connect you with our guys at Airfleet Capital, kind of give you an idea of what you might be approved for, and we can start talking about what's the best airplane for you.
Very cool. Yeah, good to have options. So I know at one point Textron or Cessna was working on a diesel 172 that got vacated, but does Textron have any exciting plans moving forward for the GA piston guys, coming down the pipeline in the future?
Yeah, so that's a great question. It's kind of a question that's unknown to a lot of us salespeople. As salespeople, we have big mouths, so we like to talk, and probably not going to be the first ones to know about something new that's coming. But what I'm to the top, which is driving demand. The piston markets remained pretty strong through COVID. And one of the cool things that's going on with our company right now is our new CEO, Ron Draper of Textron Aviation, is actually a pilot. He just finished his instrument rating in the Bonanza and is currently working on his commercial rating in the Bonanza, which is awesome to see one of our CEOs flying. I actually got a chance to talk with him under the wing of a Skyhawk at Oshkosh, which was super cool to have that kind of leadership at a show like Oshkosh, standing in the sun with me. So that was really cool. The other piece of that is that our CEO of Textron Inc. is also a pilot. Scott Donnelly used to own his own personal Caravan, and now he has his own personal Citation that he flies around himself. So when you have leadership on both sides that are active GA pilots, I think it's a lot harder for them or a lot easier, I should say, to invest into our company in that market space because they understand the value it is. And you look at what our company was built on. It was built on piston airplanes, all the way from the 172 and up into the 200 series and then into the 300 series. And there was a time we dabbled in the multi-engine range for Cessna as well. So I think it's coming back. I think it's going to be an exciting next 5 years for Textron Aviation.
Very cool. Yeah, we're definitely excited to see what's coming through the pipeline at Textron. So we'll stay tuned for that, I guess. So Textron is obviously a staple in the piston market. Also in the single engine turboprop market with the Grand Caravan that you mentioned there earlier. Looking at the decade between 2008 and 2018, delivering the most units was the Caravan. now there was a little gap in this market here. So you got the utility aircraft, the Airvan, the Kodiak, the Caravan. Then you got the speedsters, the TBM and the Piper 500, 600 series. And Pilatus kind of snuck in there right in the middle and did really, really well. They're actually the #1 sales in this market last year, given the fact of their ability to haul, the cabin size, the speed that they offer, and kind of put them in their own range with the others in the market. So Textron saw a wide open option to get into this market, and they're going to be rolling out a new aircraft, which I know you're pretty excited about, and that's the Cessna Denali. So this thing looks very, very familiar, being a PC-12 pilot myself. Looks very, very similar to that Pilatus. It does have a little bit of a bigger cargo door in the back. Cabin size pretty much the same size, same type of speeds, range. So tell us a little bit about the Denali and what's really going to set this plane apart from the PC-12.
Yeah, definitely. So, one of the things that Textron Aviation does really well is they invest in themselves. And, every year since I've been with the company, we're investing about $250 million a year in research and development. And we're going after market spaces where we see the potential to grow and the demand for competition. So yeah, we're going right after the PC-12. There's no denying that. You look at our airplanes; they're very similar. The Denali actually has a bigger cabin than the Pilatus. You did mention the door, which helps for easing the ease to load cargo or baggage or whatever. But the Denali's big thing is about the pilot, right? So we're a pilot company. We build airplanes for pilots. Like we talked about, coming out of the Skyhawk into a 182, into a Bonanza, maybe into a Baron. What's that look like for that pilot guy? So the Denali is set up for the pilot. The one big differentiator between us and the Pilatus is avionics. We have the Garmin suite. Most every pilot growing up or coming up through the flight training world right now is very familiar with Garmin, whether it's Garmin Pilot, they're using a 650 or G5s in their airplanes, or they're using the G1000. G3000, same architecture as all those other platforms. And it's very, feels right at home for a lot of guys. Garmin G3000 is much bigger displays. It's got touchscreen controllers. And it really, that cockpit of the Denali fits you like a glove. I've been in the mock-up many times, shown it to customers, and it really has more of a jet feel to it than a turboprop feel. And that was one of the design features that Textron went after. One of the big customer feedbacks from us was window size. So we put massive windows on the Denali. Great view no matter where you're looking. And the airplane is really pretty. The other thing that we did up in the cockpit is paired with our new GE Catalyst engine that GE is building for us, a single lever controlled airplane. It's got full FADEC. All you need is one lever. You don't have to control the prop. You don't have to control the throttle. It's all wrapped in one, which makes it even easier for the pilot to fly. The computer is running the engine management for you, making it much easier for you to fly. And so you look at what the Pilatus is, there's no doubt it's a phenomenal airplane. It's done really well in the market space, sold a ton of airplanes, and it really is a robust airplane. It's a great airplane, and that's why we went after it. That's why we built the Denali. And one of my favorite stories about the Denali is Oshkosh last year. So Oshkosh last year, we had the Denali mock-up. Actually, this would have been 2 years ago now, so excuse me. We had the Denali mock-up at Oshkosh. One of my customers from my previous roles, which was in Florida, he came up to me at Oshkosh and he was like, "Hey, Luken, I'd love to see the Denali. Can you show me it around?" I was like, "Yeah, I'd love to." And this customer, he actually has a PC-12. And so we got up, look around, and he was like, "Wow, this is like really simple, and it just fits me." And I'm like, I think that's a sign that maybe a Denali is in your future. And it was just one of those experiences where he was like, you know, it's very simple. There's very little buttons. There's everything was designed for the pilot, great visibility, and really is a great platform. So we're really excited about the Denali. Last time I was out in Wichita, I got to see a couple of the flight test articles that they're building right now. So hopefully we'll get a first flight of the airplane maybe this year, or maybe sometime next year, just kind of depending on what the production schedule looks like. So hopefully we'll have a flying Denali sometime next year, which would be really exciting.
Yeah, man, that's very cool. That's exactly what I thought you were going to say, is that the cockpit of that thing's got to be different, so that the G3000 is amazing. You know, the simplicity of it, and really it's so intuitive.
Right.
You got the 3 big screens, and you could split the middle screen, you know, so you can have your approach profile on the left, your moving map, and your departure arrival procedure in the middle screen, and then throw traffic on the right seat. So it's going to really make that plane stand out. And so interesting to see how well that does, and how that fares up against the PC-12 that's been pretty established now for quite some time.
Definitely. One thing like I would like to mention is that the Denali is set up for Cirrus guys. It's set up for Bonanza guys. It's any of those guys that are flying those single engine high performance airplanes. This airplane is going to feel right at home for you.
Absolutely. So going back to the single engine turboprop market, so the Caravan obviously has been a staple in that market for some time, doing very, very well. So why not come out with a multi-engine version? And that's exactly what you guys did. Big news article was released actually not too long ago with this video in it. So let's take a peek at this real quick.
Okay, stat 64, runway 1. Clear to take off at runway heading 11.5 on the pickle cruise approved. CM's ready. Let's go fly.
The Cessna Sky Courier. That thing's a tank, man. What can you tell us about this? Where do you see this going?
I don't know if any of you are watching me during this video, but I'm obviously just ear to ear grinning about this airplane. The video gives me chills every time I watch it. It just gets me so excited about the future for our company. The Cessna Sky Courier, wow, what an airplane. To see one in person, you don't quite realize the magnitude, the size of that airplane. The video actually does a good job because you see the people interacting with it. But for you airplane nerds out there, this airplane is about the same footprint as a Citation Sovereign. So really is a big airplane. The Cessna Sky Courier got its start from FedEx. They reached out to Cessna and said, hey, you guys did such a great job on the Caravan for us. That airplane has really been great for our feeder system. And we want you to design the next airplane for us to kind of help supplement another niche market of operations. And so we started working with the FedEx operations leaders and our designers, and they said, you know, what do you want of an airplane? They want something that can turn time quick. So this airplane's got single point refueling. That's going to slow down or speed up the time to get back in the air. It's got crew doors on both sides, easy inside and out access without crawling through the baggage door. It's got the PT6 engines, very reliable. Same engine that they got on their Caravan. It's got G1000 NXI, just like they have in their Caravans. It's fixed gear, very simple operation. This airplane is going to be an absolute truck. It's going to be able to hold 3 LD3 shipping containers, which is what you see them pull off of their, Boeing 757s or whatever FedEx is using right now to move cargo boxes around the world. Those boxes, those big shipping containers will just be able to come right off the airplane and go into ours, which is really going to be revolutionary to their line, because now you don't have to unpack those to repack them into the Caravan or to the, I think they have maybe some Q800s right now that they're running. But this airplane will allow that. So an example might be an airplane like this would be positioned in Fargo, North Dakota. Big enough airport where a Boeing could land, drop off a bunch of outliers, and then this airplane would be used to go out to Minot, be used to go out to Williston, be able to go to Bismarck, go up to somewhere in Minnesota, Brainerd, Minnesota, or something like that, and take a high volume of packages that maybe the Caravan can't do. So this airplane is going to have a 6,000, I said that right, 6,000 pound useful load, which you think about, most of our airplanes are, we got 1,000 pounds useful load in the 182. So that's a lot of weight that this airplane can move. It's about a 900-mile airplane. It'll do, about 200 knots. It's going to be just an absolute work truck. I mean, that's what it's built for. But I think what's really cool to see is it's a complete clean sheet design airplane. One of the strong suits that Textron Aviation has over any of the competitors in the industry is our ability to turn out airplanes that are new airplanes to the market. We've certified more airplanes than anybody else in the world in the last 10 years. You look at what we're bringing to the market. We'll get to talk about the Longitude here in a minute. Again, another clean sheet design airplane that Textron Aviation is bringing to the industry, which is really cool to see. Now, the other great thing about the Sky Courier is, it's a cargo airplane, but we've also designed it to be a commuter airline. So we've gotten a lot of interest from these operators that are saying, we want to move people around. This airplane will be set up to run 19 passenger configurations. You'll be able to move people around. It was on display up at Oshkosh last year as a mock-up, if anybody was up there and got to sit in it. And so that's another cool experience that we're going to have with this airplane to help sell them. We're working on maybe a float version of it. A lot of people compare this airplane to the Twin Otter, which is a phenomenal STOL airplane. Let me reiterate that. It's a STOL airplane. The Twin Otter was built to come in and out of short fields. They're great Samaritan airplanes. They're really good on the water because they're built for short landing and takeoff. Sky Courier was not built for that. That's not its purpose. Its purpose is to haul, and it's got the useful load to show that, and it's got the big cargo door to show that as well. Having it on floats is just going to be the cherry on top. We'll see how she does on the water. The other cool thing about the Sky Courier, and we were talking offline about this. I had a customer that came up to me at Oshkosh last year that said, Luken, wouldn't this be a really cool tailgating airplane? And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, I want to load up my buddies and fly up to Green Bay and just go up to a Packers game, and we'll have big leather couches in the back of the plane, and we can have our Miller Lite on the way, and it's just going to be kind of an ultimate boys airplane. And I was like, we didn't really think of it as an option, but I like what you're going. I think that could be pretty cool. So it'll be interesting to see what the airplane does once it's certified. But we're expecting that to progress here this year and probably certify sometime next year. FedEx has an order for 50 with an additional option for another 50. So the pressure is on to get the airplane done.
That's awesome. Yeah, that would be a heck of a tailgater, huh?
Yeah.
Love to stick a Bears logo on the rudder there. I'm on board.
Oh gosh, not the Bears.
So you mentioned the Longitude. So Textron's really dominated the light jet market with the CJs and the M2s selling over double the nearest competitor in that market. Now you mentioned the Longitudes. This was their entry into the super mid-sized jet. So what makes this aircraft stand out in that market?
Yeah, so the Citation Longitude, what an airplane. When I was a sales associate in Florida, I got to fly on this airplane a couple times, doing some shows with the airplane, and really got to experience firsthand two of the main reasons that we went and entered this space. This airplane offers two things that you're not going to find in a Challenger 350. You're not going to find in a Gulfstream G280 or a Legacy 500. And the first one of those being is a quiet cabin. When we were designing the Longitude, we brought in sound engineers and we said, hey, let's go up and fly. Went up and fly. Let's find the areas that are noisy. And so they started labeling everything with sticky tape, and they came back to the ground and said, all right, let's fix those problems. They did that a couple times over. And what they did was they made it the quietest cabin in its class. Some people say that it's quieter than a Ferrari, which is hard to believe that an airplane like this can be that quiet. My personal experience is it's scary quiet. We look at an airplane like that. When you're sitting in the first club, most of the time in a bigger airplane, you can't hear the people behind you that well. In this airplane, you definitely can. You don't even know that you're flying. It's so quiet, which is fantastic. The other thing that we did on the Citation Longitude is we made the airplane a low cabin altitude. So what that means for you as a passenger of the airplane is you're going to arrive at your destination feeling fresh. We all have jumped off an airliner and we just feel like we've gotten beat. It's a rough experience. We're really tired. We're dehydrated. And all of that stems from the cabin altitude. Your body thinks that you're up at a real high, 8,000, 9,000 feet. Yeah, you got oxygen, but the pressure on you is just beating you up. You get into the Citation Longitude, we're below 7,000 feet. So you go up to 6,000 feet in your Skyhawk. It's about what it's going to feel like when you're up in the Citation Longitude. And so you're going to arrive at your destination feeling much better. And that's really important for our corporate customers that are flying these airplanes in between business meetings, to get back to their family at night. So the Citation Longitude is a 3,500 nautical mile airplane. It's got a max cruise of 0.84. It's really it's a great sized airplane. It's got 6-foot stand-up floor cabin, completely flat floor cabin, double club configuration, real large galley. It's got a nice lavatory on it. Feels like you're in a fancy hotel. The baggage compartment on the Longitude is accessible in flight, which is something that we don't see a lot in the smaller jets. If you put your makeup in the back, there's a chance it might explode. In an older Citation or a Lee or something like that. In these airplanes, the baggage compartment is pressurized, so you can be able to go back there during the flight. The Longitude doesn't have any restrictions on the time or the altitude that you're back there. It's completely passed through, and you can do that at all altitudes. From a pilot's perspective, the Longitude has the G5000, which is the big brother of the G3000 we mentioned on the Denali. We look at our product line, and Garmin is the leader. We have the G3000 and the M2, the CJ3 Plus, the Latitude, which is the little brother of the Longitude, and the Longitude as well. The Sovereign Plus and the old 10 Plus had G5000 on it as well. We're also developing a HUD system for the Longitude, which should be out here in the next year or so. But again, like I said, Textron Aviation is the leader in the industry because we're innovators. We have brought a new airplane, complete clean sheet design, to the market, and the airplane's doing really well. You know how I know? NetJets ordered over 100 of them. So this is going to be their new flagship airplane in this class of airplanes. it's going to be a really successful airplane for both us and NetJets. We're really excited.
Yeah, very cool. It's interesting. They said that this aircraft went through the most rigorous testing out of all of Textron's aircraft. So that definitely shows. And I hate to ask, but how much does one of these things go for?
Yeah. So the Citation Longitude is a $28 million airplane. But you're getting a lot for that. So,
yeah.
it's a little pricier than our piston products that we talked about earlier.
All right. Well, you get the paperwork started. I'll meet you over at the flight center.
Let's do it.
So we got a lot of young aviators on, getting started with aviation. And I know that you came up through Textron. So what opportunities does Textron offer for, someone wanting to start a career and make a career with them? So I know you went through the sales development program. So if you could tell us a little bit about that and then some of the other programs that they may offer.
Yeah, definitely. So, one of the great things about Fortune 500 company that we work for is we're always hiring. Last year we had 300 interns. And we have these training programs designed for new hires coming out of college that really get you geared up to go out into the field and do some really cool things. Personally, for me, Textron recruited me out of Purdue into the sales development program. What this might look like for you guys out there is you don't have to be a pilot. A few of my coworkers that came up through this program had no idea anything about aviation. Now, I personally would tell you that I might have had a leg up on them because I was just an aviation guy to start. But you don't need that. It's not one of those things where it's required. It is preferred, but it's not required. You don't have to be a pilot. I didn't get my license until after I finished the sales development program. But what the sales development program is it gears you up to become a salesperson, whether you're going to be a sales associate in the jet side of our business, or if you're going to be in the aftermarket side. Some of my peers have gone into contracts. We've gone into marketing. They've gone into different manager roles. It really is just a great entry point that teaches you all different assets, our focuses of the business. I worked in service. I worked in the parts department. I helped deliver new airplanes out of all 3 campuses. I was a sales ops guy where I gave factory tours every day. I got to do a lot of really cool events and did some marketing stuff. This is Thomas Rhett. I don't know if you guys are country music fans, but I got to host Thomas Rhett at a private hangar concert in Wichita. Thomas and I, after this picture, climbed into that M2 right there, and he was telling me about how he had a bug for aviation that his dad had given him. And I was like, Thomas, TR, I'm right there with you. That's how I got my bug. It's from my dad. And so it was really cool to, kind of have those conversations. And you get to do a lot of cool things in SDP. They get to go out to NASCAR events. We get to host customers at different things. But there's also a lot of great pilot jobs. We have a pilot development program as well, where we will hire students, out of UND or Kansas State, Embry-Riddle, guys that are coming out that may not want to go to the airlines right away, may want to, try something else, take a dabble into corporate aviation. You come fly for us and you get to fly brand new airplanes every day. I mean, there's no other pilot job in the world that you get to do that. I mean, every other pilot job, it's something older, right? So it's a really cool experience. Come out to Wichita, flying, in the pilot development program, you're flying everything from the 172s up to the Barons, starting to dabble into the turbine caravans, King Air, stuff like that. It's a great opportunity for young pilots. One of the things that I like to say is don't hesitate to reach out to me for career advice. I'm happy to help young up and coming aviation guys. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Big believer in LinkedIn. I think that's a powerful way to get recruited and get to know people in the industry. I'm not sure that I can exactly get your resume in front of the right people, but I'm definitely going to pass them along to the people that do make the decisions. And we would love to be able to hire people out of the Illinois Aviation Academy to come work for the factory. It's a great company, and if you love aviation, it's definitely the place for you. So it's been a great experience for me. Yeah, so I've been really happy with it.
Awesome, Luken. Well, really appreciate your time tonight. Thank you for coming on. Really enjoyed it. Hopefully we'll be seeing quite a bit of you around the academy here this summer.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to it. Thanks for having me, Logan.
Thanks, Luken. All right, guys. So that is it. That was Luken Smith for tonight. Stay tuned next week, Wednesday on the 10th. We're going to be talking with Andy Priester out of Priester Aviation up in Pewaukee, and we'll be discussing the charter industry. Have a nice night, guys.